It is spring, 66 million years ago, on a warm morning in what will one day be called North America. A herd of hadrosaurs moves slowly through a river valley. The air is thick and green. Insects hum. Somewhere in the ferns, a young triceratops lowers its head to drink. None of them look up. If they did, they would see a new star in the daytime sky. It has been growing brighter for hours. By now, it is brighter than the sun. It does not twinkle. It does not move like the other lights they have known their whole lives. It is falling. In a few seconds, every living thing in this valley will be dead. And within 24 hours, the reign of the dinosaurs, a reign that has lasted more than 165 million years, will be over forever. This is the story of that day. Not in millions of years, not in ages or epochs, minute by minute. To understand how much was lost, you have to understand how complete their world was. The dinosaurs were not a failed experiment. They were the most successful large animals the planet has ever produced. For over 165 million years, they ruled every continent. To put that number in perspective, the entire history of humans, from the first upright ape to this very moment, would fit into their reign more than 800 times. This was their planet. We are just tenants who arrived after they left. On this final morning, the Earth is warmer than the one we know. There are no polar ice caps. Forests of flowering plants stretch from pole to pole. In the shallow seas, giant marine reptiles called mosasaurs patrol the water like living submarines. Overhead, pterosaurs with the wingspan of small airplanes ride the wind. And on land, the giants. The Tyrannosaurus rex, 13 meters of muscle and teeth, sits at the top of a food chain it has never had to question. Herds of triceratops move across the plains. Duck-billed hadrosaurs number in the millions. Everything is normal. Everything is fine. It will stay that way for about 9 more minutes. The thing that is about to end this world has been traveling for a very long time. It is an asteroid. Scientists believe it was around 10 to 15 kilometers wide. That is roughly the size of a mountain. Big enough that if you placed it on the ground, its peak would rise higher than the cruising altitude of a passenger jet. It is moving at approximately 20 kilometers per second. That is more than 70,000 kilometers per hour, fast enough to cross from one side of a large city to the other before you finish reading this sentence. At this speed, the asteroid does not simply fall toward the Earth. It slams into the planet's atmosphere like a bullet hitting water. But the atmosphere, 100 kilometers of air that protects every living thing below, offers almost no resistance to an object this large. The asteroid punches through the entire sky in about 1 second. For that single second, the air in front of it is compressed so violently that it heats to several times the temperature of the surface of the sun. Anything looking up in the final moment sees a flash of light brighter than 1,000 suns. It is the last thing their eyes ever process. And then, contact. The location is a shallow sea near what is today the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The asteroid strikes the Earth with the force of billions of nuclear bombs. Not hundreds, not thousands, billions. In an instant, it carves a hole in the planet more than 180 kilometers across and tens of kilometers deep. The crust of the Earth itself is vaporized. Rock behaves like liquid. The seafloor is peeled back like the skin of an orange. For a fraction of a second, there is a hole in the world so deep you could see into the Earth's mantle. Then the planet fights back. Molten rock and vaporized stone are blasted upward, thrown so hard that some of it leaves the atmosphere entirely and rains back down across the entire globe. A wave of solid earth ripples outward from the impact point like a stone dropped in a pond, except the stone is a mountain and the pond is the crust of a planet. Every animal within 1,000 kilometers is killed in the first moment. Not by the tsunami, not by the fire, by the shock wave in the air and the ground, which flattens everything instantly. At a dig site in the Badlands of North Dakota, scientists uncovered a layer of rock packed with fish, thrown together and buried in a violent surge of water and sediment. These fish did not die peacefully over time. They were killed all at once, piled on top of each other, some with their mouths still open. And when researchers looked closely at the gills of those fish, they found something astonishing. Tiny spheres of glass. The same molten droplets blasted out of the Chicxulub crater, the ones that turned the sky to fire. The fish had breathed them in. That means these animals were alive and breathing when the debris from the impact began raining down. They inhaled the fallout as it fell, and then they were buried within minutes. Tanis is not a graveyard built over centuries. It is a photograph of the first hour of the apocalypse. It is one of the closest things science has ever found to standing at the scene on the day itself. But even Tanis only tells us about the first hour. The dinosaurs that survived the fire, the ones deep in water or sheltered underground, faced something worse. Because the asteroid did not just bring a bad day, it brought a bad decade. Fire is fast, starvation is slow. When the asteroid vaporized the rock at the impact site, it did not just throw up glass. It threw up billions of tons of dust, soot, and sulfur high into the atmosphere, so high that it spread around the entire planet and stayed there. The sky went dark, not for a night, not for a week, for months, possibly years. The Earth was wrapped in a shroud of dust that blocked out the sun. Scientists call it impact winter. In many places, the amount of sunlight reaching the ground dropped so low that it was too dark for plants to photosynthesize. And when the plants die, everything dies. The great herds of plant eaters starved first. There simply was not enough food left on a darkened, frozen planet to feed a 30-ton animal. As the herbivores collapsed, the predators that hunted them collapsed too. The Tyrannosaurus rex, the most fearsome land predator the world had ever seen, did not fall to a rival. It fell to an empty world. The oceans died from the top down. The tiny plankton that fed the entire marine food web could not survive without sunlight. The mosasaurs, the sea monsters that had ruled the waves that very morning, starved in the dark alongside everything they preyed upon. By the time the dust finally cleared and the sun returned, the world it revealed was almost unrecognizable. Roughly 3 out of every 4 species on Earth were gone. Every dinosaur larger than a house cat had vanished. An entire kind of life, the rulers of the planet for 165 million years, erased in what geologists see as a single instant. For most of human history, we had no idea any of this happened. We found the bones. We knew the dinosaurs had once lived and then were gone. But how? For decades, the answer was a shrug. Maybe they faded away slowly. Maybe they simply could not compete. Then, in 1980, a father and son changed everything. Luis Alvarez was a physicist. His son Walter was a geologist. Together, they were studying a strange, thin layer of clay found in rocks around the world, a layer that marked the exact boundary between the age of dinosaurs and everything after. When they analyzed it, they found something that did not belong. The layer was rich in a metal called iridium. Iridium is extremely rare in the Earth's crust, but it is common in one place: asteroids. That thin line of iridium, found on continents all over the globe, could mean only one thing. Something from space, something enormous, had hit the Earth and scattered its dust across the entire planet at the precise moment the dinosaurs died. It was a radical idea. Many scientists resisted it for years, until finally someone found the murder weapon, the buried Chicxulub crater, exactly the right size, exactly the right age. The case was closed, and more recent work at sites like Tanis has even told us the season. By studying the growth patterns in the bones of the animals that died that day, scientists now believe the impact struck in spring in the northern hemisphere, just as new life was beginning. The dinosaurs died at the start of their year, not the end. Not everything died. In the ashes of that ruined world, a few small, unremarkable creatures held on. They were the ones who could hide, small animals that could burrow underground and escape the fire, creatures that could survive on seeds and insects and scraps in the long dark, animals that did not need much to live. Among them were tiny, shrew-like creatures covered in fur. Mammals. For over 100 million years, mammals had lived in the shadow of the dinosaurs, small and hidden, waiting out the night in a world that belonged to giants. The asteroid did not spare them because they were special. It spared them because they were small enough to survive. And when the sun finally returned to an empty world, they walked out into a planet with no rulers. Every niche the dinosaurs had filled was now open. Over the following millions of years, those small survivors grew, spread, and diversified into the whales, the elephants, the wolves, the primates, and eventually into us. You exist because of the worst day in the history of the planet. If that asteroid had arrived a few minutes earlier or later, it would have struck deep ocean instead of shallow sea, and the outcome might have been different. The dinosaurs might still rule, and the line of small, furry survivors that led to human beings might never have gotten its chance. We are the children of a catastrophe. Here is the part that should keep you awake. The asteroids are still out there. The same kind of object that ended the dinosaurs still crosses our path in the darkness of space. The difference is that we are the first species in the history of this planet capable of looking up, seeing it coming, and choosing to do something about it. The dinosaurs never had a telescope. They never had a warning. We do. The last day of the dinosaurs is not just a story about the past. It is a rehearsal. A record of what this universe is capable of, written into the rocks beneath our feet, waiting for anyone curious enough to read it. 66 million years ago, a herd of animals stood in a green valley on a warm spring morning and did not look up. We can. If this story moved you, subscribe and tell us in the comments what shocked you the most about the dinosaurs' final day. Watch next as we reconstruct another of Earth's darkest hours, minute by minute.